Steve King. Mr. King is a teacher at Calvert High School now. And I sent him an e-birthday card this past year. And he was just like, I can't believe you always remember my birthday every year. Here's the beautiful thing in Google. You just put it in there and it'll pop up every year. Right? It's not I have a great memory. I just make sure. And so when you do those little things, even if it's just for your staff, if you do that for students, you'll see how shocked and how happy that you thought of them. So it's little things like remembering their birthday. I know Mr. Bridges has talked about attending games. Matter of fact, as a staff, we have a student who graduated we're very proud of here that many of my staff is going to go see him on May 20th, and the staff at Croom High School as well had him. We had a young Olympian boxer. His name is Gary Russell. And Gary went to Green Valley and then Croom High School, and he fought in the Olympics. And actually, we thought he was robbed. No, I don't think he was robbed. He was robbed. He was robbed. I watched that. We watched that fight during the back-to-school week with our staff, and there was no doubt that he was robbed. His brother is actually already the WBC lightweight champion of the world, and he'll be fighting on his brother's undercard at the MGM Grand on May 20th. So this will be Gary's first professional fight. So we're very excited about that. And so, you know, I've attended before when Gary was a student here. I attended one of his boxing matches one late night in Southeast DC, and you know, this thing didn't start till like 10 o'clock at night. Now, I kind of stood out in the crowd. I'll let you figure out why. But just to see Gary's face when I was there and how excited he was. And he even looked at me from the ring while he was boxing. And I'm like, oh my God, what is he doing? He's like smiling at me while he's fighting this guy. And so he was just so happy. And I think that's how our students react when we take an interest in it. And then, of course, using humor as well. And let them know that you care. Pay attention to your students. This is a tough one. Be kind. Don't put them down. Even when they're mean to you, don't be mean to them. Focus on the good things that they do. And always, when I talk about all this positive stuff, redirect the inappropriate behavior. Don't ignore the inappropriate behavior. It's just how you handle the inappropriate behavior. Because I think you send a signal when you ignore things that I don't have certain expectations for you, right? Oh, he's cursing over there. I'm not dealing with that. Why? If it was your own child, would you let your own child stand over there and use profanity? Probably not. Have the same standard for someone else's child that you have for your own. How you should be when you do it, be calm, be calm, be calm. Ms. Spence did a lesson the other day in her class where she had a student where she did some, how to say something, and she said the same thing. What was it that you said?
Difference between what and how and what I told her was Tracy, have a seat.
Tracy, have a seat. Tracy, have a seat. So she had Tracy make sure that she didn't have a seat. The students had to write it down. And then, what did I say? How did I say it? Tracy, have a seat. Tracy, have a seat. And then the last one was, Tracy, have a seat. And she started walking toward her. And then the class had a really good conversation around the message and how it was delivered. And really getting students to understand, you know, but once again, we can't let students take us to that level. But the discussion was why? How do we get to that level? How does that sound? So it was a great lesson in how to talk with students. Express your feelings. I tell students all the time, I'm frustrated with you right now. design, I'm frustrated. Like, I really expect more from you than this. Get their side of the story, but sometimes I have to tell them, your side is not accurate. Like, I'm just going to be honest. I always try to be honest. That's not accurate. Or, I'm hearing you, but this is what this person said, this is what this person said, and this is what the video showed in the hallway. So please help me out with what I'm seeing and what you're telling me. Show and express understanding, but make sure that the behavior was inappropriate if it was. And identify, that's my big thing that I said earlier, identify and model an appropriate alternative. State consequences for behavior, because it is, and thank them for listening. So I'm going to go through this very quickly because this is something that you can do school-wide, right? But it's hard for us because, you know, we might not have kids but for a very short period of time. You can loop kids if you have them for a longer period of time, that if I have them in 9th grade and say I was going to have them second semester, then I could change the second semester teachers to be 10th grade teachers and they could go into those classes. You can have academies or houses. So this is really more for a bigger high school type setting. Advisories, everyone can do advisories, and Ms. Polly is going to do a thing on advisories at the end of the day. And then transition support, how we transition kids in and how we support them when we leave. And then establish your staff norms, so what the expectation is for the staff. And Ms. Brent, who's our PBIS coordinator, she works with the staff in establishing how we promote that positive behavior in the classroom. And so, you know, the things that we expect is high expectations, positive approach, no display of anger, model pro-social behaviors, and no bullying or harassment. Agree on hallway behavior and what every staff member should do in the halls during the change of class. And then use the staff meetings to talk about relationship stories, model supportive relationships, and talk about your turnaround. Because you have success, everyone in here has success with young people. And talk about how you did that. Recognize the staff for what they do. And then the other thing you could do is build a school storybook and catch the best examples of what you do and how you do it. Develop staff-student mentoring models. You now have staff work with students. So once again, it says staff, not teachers. Because we have a whole bunch of folks that have good relationships. Mr. McLean, who's here today helping us out, one of our paras, he has, you know, great relationships with some of the middle school kids. Mr. Barnes, Mr. Reese. These are not teachers in my building, but they're support staff. And they're very strong at working with individual students. I need to go see Mr. Reese. Okay. We're going to send John and Mr. Reese to go over. So in summary, relationships matter. I think we have to do what they call process in Prince George. It's kind of called data wise. That's our school improvement process in our district. As Mr. Bob, who's our data wise coach in the building, knows, I've argued and we've been heard that for alternative schools, it's just as important that our priority question focuses on the social emotional learning side as it does the academic side. And actually, I would argue more. Deepening positive relationships, quality relationships, they just don't happen. You have to be purposeful in making them happen. And then, how can you measure that? Like, how many, looking at teacher referrals, looking at your suspension data, how can you measure that what you're doing in building relationships has an impact on your building? Because I go back to the data-wise, one of the things we talk about is, if we're not, and I'm not saying we got to put up individual teacher data on referrals, but we need to have, these are the referrals, these are the infractions, how are what we're trying to get accomplished decreases that.